A simple black woman named Ava Bennett was ruthlessly humiliated, drenched with soda, and shoved violently out of the Veritas Strategies office right in the heart of downtown Atlanta. Her soft pleas vanished into the polished marble air, drowned beneath the jeers of high heels, overpriced cologne, and cruelty disguised as corporate culture. Outside, the southern heat pressed against the glass tower like a warning, but inside the air was cold, artificial, filtered, and thick with silent judgment. At desk 42B, Ava sat hunched over her laptop, tapping out a quarterly report no one would read but everyone would take credit for. Her grey cardigan clung to her like armor worn too long, her scuffed flats tucked under the desk like secrets. No designer bag, no fake smile, just dignity in its rawest form. Across the open floor, Jessica Hale's laughter sliced through the hum of productivity, sharp, performative, and dripping with contempt. A can of soda cracked open. The hiss felt surgical. Ava didn't flinch. She'd learned to brace for impact in silence. But today, something in the air shifted. Not just the scent of sugar and mockery, but a quiet storm building beneath her ribs, waiting. She didn't know it yet, but the moment she reached for her phone would split the world they knew in two. The hum of fluorescent lights buzzed overhead as Ava Bennett navigated the sleek battlefield of Veritas Strategies. A jungle of glass walls, gleaming desks, and ego polished to a blinding shine. Her steps were soft, measured, always just outside the spotlight. Every morning, she arrived 15 minutes early, slipping past the coffee bar and the curated chatter about yachts, designer drops, and trust funds. Her desk, tucked in the far corner of the open floor, was a quiet island of functionality. A battered laptop, a cracked ceramic mug that read, "Data never lies," and a small framed photo of her grandmother, the woman who taught her to keep her head high even when the world tried to bury her. Ava had survived West Oakland, fought her way through scholarships and late-night shifts to graduate top of her class at Stanford. But here, among the power suits and frozen smiles of downtown Atlanta's elite, she was invisible, not because she lacked brilliance, her analytics saved multi-million-dollar campaigns monthly, but because she didn't wear her worth on her sleeve. She wore it in silence, in sleepless nights, in equations solved before anyone else knew there was a problem. Jessica Hale, the self-proclaimed queen of the sixth floor, made sure Ava felt every ounce of her difference. With her surgically tailored blazers and icy green eyes, Jessica passed Ava daily with a smirk that didn't need words. Behind her trailed Logan Pierce, slick hair, loud watch, louder mouth, and Ashley Tran, the Instagram-perfect content queen who never let an opportunity for cruelty slip by without hitting record. To them, Ava was a statistic they didn't want on their team photo. And yet, Ava endured. Not because she was passive, but because she was patient. Because her husband, Dominic, had taught her the long game. No one here knew her last name meant anything, and she kept it that way. Power, real power, didn't announce itself. It waited, it watched. And when the moment came, it struck so cleanly, the blade was gone before the wound even bled. Ava tapped on her keyboard, heart steady, breathing calm. Her fingers moved faster than her thoughts. She noticed everything, the way Brian Stone, the director, watched Jessica like a golden ticket, the way Ashley's eyes darted when she whispered with Logan. Something was building, something sour. Ava could feel it in the pauses between laughter, in the click of stiletto heels that stopped too close to her chair. She didn't flinch. She logged another data set. She reminded herself why she was here, for women like her grandmother, for girls who didn't see themselves in corner offices, for the day when silence would no longer be mistaken for weakness, and somewhere inside her, just beneath the quiet surface, something stirred, a warning, a promise, and a storm waiting for permission to rise. Friday afternoon sunlight bled through the floor-to-ceiling windows, casting gold slashes across the sterile grey of the office. The air inside Veritas Strategies was deceptively calm. Keyboards clicked, phones buzzed, shallow laughter floated between desks. But underneath it all, tension coiled like a live wire. At 3:48 p.m., Jessica Hale stood from her glass-walled office, a manila folder in hand, her heels snapping against the floor with the rhythmic certainty of a countdown. She crossed the floor like a predator in a silk suit, Her icy green eyes locked on Ava's desk. Logan and Ashley exchanged a glance. Ashley's phone was already in her hand. Ava looked up just as Jessica dropped the folder onto her keyboard with a theatrical thump. "These need sorting before EOD," Jessica said, her voice sugar-dipped acid. "You don't have anything more important, do you?" A pause. Ava blinked, confused. "Actually, I'm finalizing the reporting deck." "Oh," Jessica interrupted with a tilted head, the fake pity smile curving her lips. "Then I'm sure this won't be too much for you." Her tone landed like a slap. Ava opened the folder. Old data, obsolete drafts, reports from the previous fiscal year, garbage. Her throat tightened. It wasn't a mistake, it was a message. But the room was watching, and she knew better than to argue. She nodded softly. "Understood." Jessica spun on her heel with cruel satisfaction. Logan whistled low, mocking. "Careful, Jess. She might actually cry this time." Laughter, muted but sharp. Ava's fingers clenched under the desk. She told herself to breathe, focus, just finish the task. But then crack, a soda can popped behind her. Her shoulders stiffened, ice clinked against metal. The cold splash came fast and unexpected. A burst of syrupy fizz struck her back, soaking her cardigan, the folder, and her keyboard in one swift, humiliating stroke. "Oops," Jessica's voice sang from behind, far too gleeful for coincidence. "Thought you could use a little energy boost." Ava shot to her feet, drenched, her chest rising and falling. Behind her, Logan snorted. Ashley's camera phone gleamed. "This is gold," Ashley whispered. Click. The record button flashed red. The office didn't gasp. It didn't freeze. It watched, eager. Ava locked eyes with the mirror-like screen of her ruined laptop. Sticky soda dripped from the keys. Her reflection stared back, soaked, small, silent. For a heartbeat, she thought about shouting, about quitting, about throwing the can back. But then she looked up and saw Brian Stone, arms crossed in the corner office, watching. Not shocked, not upset, just waiting. And something inside her shifted, not rage, not fear, something older. A familiar whisper buried deep in her bones. Not yet. She turned slowly, calmly, picked up the ruined reports, and sat back down without a word. Around her, the office buzzed again. Satisfied, believing they had won. But Ava's hand slid into her tote bag. Her fingers found her phone. Her thumb hovered over one name, a name no one in that office was ready for, and without blinking, she pressed call. The break room door clicked shut behind her, sealing in the soft drone of vending machines and the sterile hum of fluorescent lights. Ava leaned against the sink, hands trembling, breath ragged. The soda was beginning to dry, leaving behind a tacky sheen on her skin and a sticky trail across her dignity. Her phone buzzed once in her pocket, Dominic's missed call. She didn't answer, not yet. Not while her heart was still racing, not while she could still hear the echo of laughter bleeding through the glass walls outside. She splashed cold water onto her face, watching her reflection ripple in the mirror. The woman staring back didn't look broken, but she didn't look whole either. Just paused, caught between endurance and collapse. She turned off the faucet, gripping the edge of the sink. From here, the voices in the hallway were muffled, but she caught fragments. Logan's arrogant chuckle, Ashley's breathless, "Did you post it yet?" Then Jessica, cool, unbothered, orchestrated. Ava's gut twisted. This wasn't spontaneous. It had been planned. Days, maybe weeks in the making. She remembered the sudden fake kindness this morning, the way Brian had nodded toward her desk without reason, the knowing glance Ashley had thrown Logan before the soda exploded. Her breath caught in her throat. This wasn't just office bullying, it was a campaign, and she'd walked straight into it. But why now? Why the escalation? She replayed the moment Jessica threw the folder down, like a trap being sprung. Ava wiped her palms on her slacks, suddenly aware of every camera, every whisper, every smile that didn't reach the eyes. Then she remembered last week's pitch meeting, the one where her data projections outperformed the entire team. Brian had taken the credit. Jessica had watched silently. And now the pieces began to align, clumsy, cruel, deliberate. Her rise had become their threat, her competence, their exposure. Stay small, stay silent. That's what they expected. Ava's chest tightened, not from fear but from clarity. Her eyes scanned the room, suddenly sharper. The lingering security camera in the corner. The untouched break room schedule posted beside it, filled with fake names. Her presence had always disrupted their image. But now she realized her silence had become their permission. She wasn't just a scapegoat. She was a target. Ava reached for her phone, but this time her fingers didn't shake. She opened her photo app. Evidence, recordings. She had more than enough to prove this wasn't random. But even so, even armed with proof, she knew who they would believe. Unless someone else walked through that door, someone they couldn't ignore. The screen lit up with Dominic's name again. Ava stared at it for a moment longer. Then, without another word, she answered. The ding of the elevator cut through the office like a blade through silk. Heads turned instinctively, half expecting a courier or a lost intern. But what stepped out wasn't a delivery. It was disruption incarnate. Dominic Bennett emerged from the mirrored doors like a storm in a tailored steel grey suit. His presence didn't announce itself with noise, but with stillness. The kind of silence that makes even air hold its breath. His black eyes scanned the room, sharp and cold, ignoring the stares, the whispers, the attempts to understand why a billionaire just walked into Veritas Strategies unannounced. Jessica, mid-laugh at a meme on Ashley's phone, froze. Her smile faltered. Logan's coffee cup trembled slightly as he set it down. Ashley, phone still in hand, instinctively lowered the camera. Dominic didn't need directions. He didn't ask for introductions. He walked with the calm of someone who had built everything under his feet and was now ready to rearrange it. Straight past the reception, past Brian Stone's glass-walled office, whose blinds suddenly felt far too transparent, until he stopped in front of Ava's desk, where she sat quietly, her clothes still damp, her pride shredded but not dead. Their eyes met, and in that shared silence, everything shifted. "Ready to go?" Dominic asked, his voice low but echoing like thunder across the 6th floor. Ava stood slowly, the office watching, paralyzed. Jessica's lips parted, trying to catch up with what she was witnessing. She stepped forward, her heels clicking too fast, too loud. "Mr. Bennett, I didn't realize you were visiting today. Would you like something to drink? We can set up the boardroom." He didn't look at her. He didn't need to. Instead, he turned his gaze to the entire office, letting the weight of his presence settle like lead. "Who here," he said, voice controlled and unflinching, "humiliated my wife?" The word wife detonated like a bomb. An audible gasp escaped someone near the back. Jessica went pale, her perfect composure unraveling by the second. Logan stepped back instinctively, bumping into Ashley, who had gone deathly still. Brian opened his door slowly, trying to regain control of the situation, but the power had already shifted. Permanently. Dominic's voice was calm, but each word landed like judgment. "You poured soda on her. You filmed her humiliation. You posted it for entertainment. All while working in a building I own for a company I fund." Ashley's phone slipped from her fingers and clattered to the floor. Jessica tried to speak, some twisted apology forming, but Dominic cut through her breathless stammer. "Save it." He turned to Ava. "You don't need to explain anything," he said softly, only to her. "I saw enough." She didn't smile. She didn't gloat. She stood tall beside him, still soaked, still trembling, but no longer alone. And across the office, faces that once looked through her now looked at her. Stunned, ashamed, and for the first time afraid. But this reckoning wasn't over, not yet. Jessica stood near the coffee counter, her face pale, her hand clenched so tightly around her designer handbag that the leather creaked. Her eyes darted around the room, searching for a script that didn't exist anymore. Finally, she stepped forward, voice brittle. "Ava," she said, using her name for the first time, I didn't know. If I had..." But Ava didn't flinch. She didn't interrupt. She simply looked at Jessica with a gaze too calm to be angry and too tired to be forgiving. "That's the point," Ava said, her voice barely above a whisper, but it cut sharper than anything Dominic had said. "You never wanted to know." Logan shuffled behind his desk, his usual bravado leaking out of him like air from a balloon. He opened his mouth, perhaps to echo an apology, but one glance at Ava, standing tall beside her husband, made him think better of it. Ashley, makeup streaked and hands trembling, whispered something to herself, but it was too late. They had built their power on cruelty, and now the structure was crumbling. Dominic didn't need to fire them, not yet. Their careers were already bleeding out in real time, but he made it clear this wasn't the end. It was the beginning of a much-needed audit. Not just of HR, not just of policy, but of the very culture that allowed rot to grow behind glass walls. His voice was measured as he announced it to the floor, but the implications were seismic. Ava watched them all, the same people who once ignored her now scrambling to prove they were different. She should have felt triumph, but instead she felt something else: exhaustion, clarity, and something deeper, a recognition that power didn't change people, it revealed them. Later that day, while the building emptied and the murmurs faded, Jessica found herself outside the parking garage, waiting. Not for confrontation, for closure. Ava exited the elevator, alone now, her heels clicking against the concrete. Jessica approached carefully, her voice raw. "You didn't deserve any of it. I don't expect forgiveness. I just wanted to say it." Ava paused, eyes searching Jessica's, looking not for regret, but for change. "I never needed your validation," she replied softly. "But maybe now you'll start asking why you ever thought I did." She walked away before Jessica could respond. It wasn't a rejection, it was a release. Upstairs, Dominic waited near the entrance, hands tucked into his coat, watching the city stretch toward dusk. Ava approached, her shoulders loose now, the tightness in her chest slowly unraveling. He looked at her, not like a savior, but like a partner. "You okay?" She nodded. "Getting there." He smiled faintly. "You didn't need me to come. You already stood your ground." "I needed to be seen," she corrected, "not saved." The elevator behind them dinged again, echoing like a closing chapter. Ava looked back once, not in regret, but in resolve. She'd earned this reckoning. She had survived not to win, but to remember who she was all along. And now, finally, she could choose what came next. The clip hit the internet like lightning. Just 29 seconds long, filmed on shaky office security footage, it showed Ava Bennett, drenched in soda, cardigan heavy with humiliation, standing silently as Dominic Bennett, calm and controlled, delivered 6 words that shattered a corporate empire. "Who here humiliated my wife?" No threats, no raised voice, just truth, undeniable and ice-cold. And in a world where performative apologies and empty apologies run wild, the internet erupted. Millions watched as power changed hands, not through yelling, not through vengeance, but through stillness, through presence, through dignity. By Monday morning, Jessica Hale's name trended, for all the wrong reasons. Brands she once partnered with quietly removed her from campaigns. A statement of deep regret was issued but fell flat. Logan Pierce and Ashley Tran, too, were exposed as co-conspirators. The cruel Instagram story, gone. But not forgotten, screenshots don't disappear. And the comment sections, normally so eager to jump on bandwagons, turned on them with surgical precision. This is why culture needs to change. She didn't cry, and that's what made her the strongest one in the room. Ava Bennett is the face of silent power. But Ava didn't post about it. She didn't tweet, didn't go on morning shows, didn't clap back. Instead, she quietly resigned from Veritas Strategies with her head held high. There were no press releases, no victory laps, just a woman choosing peace over spotlight. She launched her own consultancy weeks later. Bennett Insight, a data-driven agency serving minority-owned startups, non-profits, and overlooked community brands. Not built to compete with the big leagues, but to rewrite the rules they ignored. Dominic never once gave an interview, but his actions spoke loudly. He initiated a full review of every executive culture in his investment portfolio. 3 more companies were audited. 2 VPs stepped down. Internally, the move was called the Ava effect. Externally, it became something else entirely. A rallying cry for workplaces poisoned by invisible bias and unchecked cruelty. One afternoon, months later, Ava stood on her balcony overlooking the Atlanta skyline. The sky was bruised orange, the city lights flickering on like a quiet heartbeat. She sipped her tea, her hair loose for once, curls dancing in the breeze. Dominic joined her, his coat draped over one arm, a calm in his eyes that hadn't been there before. He didn't speak. He didn't have to. "I didn't win," Ava said quietly, as if answering a question no one asked. Dominic raised a brow. "I didn't need to," she continued. "I just stopped letting them convince me I had no right to exist on my own terms." Dominic nodded. "That's not a win, that's freedom." And in that moment, the final truth settled like dusk. Ava hadn't survived the storm, she had become it. Quiet, unrelenting, transformative. Because the lesson wasn't about exposure or punishment, it was about worth. About the courage to hold your ground when the world demands you shrink. About the strength it takes to be kind in a place that profits off cruelty. And perhaps most importantly, about knowing that your silence, your patience, your dignity can shake the foundation of the loudest rooms. If you loved this wild ride at Veritas Strategies, where Ava Bennett's clash with arrogance turned quiet endurance into a viral reckoning, then buckle up, because there's so much more to come. Hit that subscribe button for the X Daily Stories channel, your front row seat to gripping tales that twist, turn, and leave you thinking. We're dropping fresh, cinematic stories every week, drama, suspense, and lessons that stay with you long after the credits roll. Don't miss out. Join our crew, turn on notifications, and dive into the next epic adventure.